Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 11th at 9 a.m. and we'll start our work session. Christina, you want to kick it off?
Public comment.
Oh, sorry, public comment.
Not yet.
No, we'll wait till the end.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Christina Heron, Finance Director. I'm happy to show you February's Treasury Report. And of course. So that top section is our bank investment account balances, and then you can show how it compares to what we have in the books. And that difference is due to some deposits in transit and outstanding checks, as well as some tax turnover for the month. So the next section is how those bank accounts live in our general ledger, and that's the comparison between those two numbers. And then you can see we don't have any unallocated cash across those bank accounts in the books. We have held pretty steady as far as cash balances month over month from January to February, which is good. The next section is our allocation by fund. So this is the cash balance in each fund. And then that foots to the bank balance in our books. Next section is just an overview of the investments that we have by type. And these again are governed by our investment policy under RS 294. And we do hold them to maturity, which results in that lower risk and more predictable returns. You can see the comparison of the book value of the investments and the market value. So it's a pretty hefty gain right now, but I don't expect to realize all of that because we do hold them to maturity and we're not selling them immediately. And the last page is just a look at the interest that we earn on our checking and the smaller savings accounts, as well as the local government investment pool. And we don't have any outstanding or indebtedness as of the end of February. So happy to answer any questions, dig in deeper on anything.
The only thing I saw the Flat Rock Road District was on that form. Is that, do we collect their taxes? Is that why? And there's other districts that we do, because I know we cleaned up a lot of that stuff, but is that a little different because we actually do collect the taxes?
Correct. So those are the tax turnover accounts. In the future, we're going to zip all of those up under our single unsegregated tax account. So you won't see them detailed. It'll just be in one account for ease of, the way it was set up in the past worked for how it was when we had all those special districts, but we can consolidate it all since we don't have any now and we're just turning tax over instead of doing their accounting. So we will be cleaning that up once we're done with the new ERP. We can not have the mess of all that in.
I was hoping we weren't heading back in that direction. So.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, absolutely.
So you just haven't given them the money yet then, is what you're saying, basically?
Yeah, so some of them is timing. We have the money gets turned over and then the check gets cut the next day or two after the end of the month.
How did taxes go this year? Pretty good or?
Yeah, we actually last month in February brought in significantly more than we typically do for the February turnover. I don't know if it's because people got higher tax refunds, but we had more people pay their taxes in full rather than paying in the payments that they can make. So that was an interesting trend to see.
That's good. Okay.
We have Eric Klon and Jason Carr. Stand or is there 2 seats down there?
Dance.
Yeah, I'd like to see a dance first and then maybe a singing duet.
Yeah. I don't know that you actually want to hear that.
All right, so Eric Klon, Jason Carr, for those of you that I guess don't know me, born and raised in Prineville, graduated high school in '94, went to Oregon State, came back with a degree in engineering, worked for the city for about 15 years, and about 5 years ago, I started my own engineering business. So if we look at Crook County now has the second highest wage in Oregon. So if you think about, you know, before the recession or during the recession, we were about on the bottom with like Harney County. Now we have the second highest wage in Oregon. I guess that's good, right? You know, what comes with that? You know, high housing prices come with that. And what we see is you have housing opportunities for people that are maybe on the lower end of the income spectrum, right? So right now, the city's currently building over 700 apartments. Last year, they put about $2 million into infrastructure to get those apartments going. So a lot of apartments, but then to buy your first home, it gets really tough. You know, the average house price is probably over $450 right now. And so, you know, what does that mean? That means the people that are working in your community are the people that are getting squeezed out. So that would be like your teachers, your police, your firefighters, you know, your sheriff's deputies. And so Jason and I are working on this project. We've set up a lot of dominoes where we think we can really make a really positive impact to those people that are stuck in the middle and give them a great opportunity to buy their first home. So what this is, the moderate income revolving loan. So this is funds that come from the state to help you construct housing for those people making 120% or less of the average median income. So once again, those are the people working in your community. Change it. Yeah, this just shows, you know, that gap in there where, once again, a lot of low income opportunities, higher construction costs. Personally, I really struggle with the low income opportunities. You know, you give somebody a inexpensive apartment, but then you limit them on how much money they can make, right? Like that is a disincentive for people to do better. You make more money, we're going to kick you out of your house. So this is, once again, trying to fix that niche. Moving forward. Once again, just why is the housing going up? You know, one of the issues in Prineville is that high wage, but, you know, land's getting more and more restricted. The state's getting more and more tough to work with, you know, if you want to build new homes or bring stuff in. And that's the issue we're trying to fix. So how this program works is in 2004, the state passed this funding opportunity. They basically put $100 million into a fund. What that fund does is it allows the developer to get the horizontal utilities in. So that would be your water, your wastewater, power, gas, streets, all of that stuff. And then as a result of that, the developer agrees to provide those homes to those middle income housing people, those people making 120% or less. So the dollars would go from the state to the county and local government, and then we would go do that work. So in Crook County, who would qualify for this? So if you're one person household, you'd have to make $76,000 or less. And then you can see where that goes. You know, that seems like a lot of money to me, but I guess inflation's kicking all of our rear ends. But once again, those are the people that are going to really struggle to make a house payment of $400,000 a year. How this works, and it is a bit complicated. The county would adopt an ordinance that says you would accept the funds from the state. The state would provide a zero interest loan to get the work done. Those homes, as those homes are built and they come onto the tax rolls, you know, right now it's vacant land, so those homes will have a tax burden associated with them. Those taxes, the fire department would still get their funds, and then that remainder for 10 years would go to pay back the loan. So I want to make sure everybody kind of understands that, right? Right now, there's nothing. You build a home, that home's finished. The taxes would go to basically paying back this loan. Fire department has struggled with some of the tax exemptions that have been given to the data centers. You know, they have this big demand and no income to take care of it. So that's where the state wanted to make sure that the fire department's taken care of.
But I wanna clear up, that doesn't count law enforcement. Law enforcement would not be part of that takeout at all,
No.
or the school district,
It would just be,
just fire.
and I think that that's a good point. And I think the takeaway from that is this would be providing housing, like for the school district, for the young teachers, you know, for the police department or sheriff's department, you know, those people coming in. And I think as you, maybe Jason, you want to speak to this. Jason has a lot of experience with school district and stuff, but like, how do you recruit a new teacher or a new sheriff and, you know, maybe talk to the issues faced there?
Yeah, it's tough. I know even though the school district has really tried to increase wages to be competitive in the region. You know, 10 years ago, it wasn't uncommon for a new teacher to come here, be here for 2 years and go to Redmond or Bend because the wages were significantly higher. And I think even now they've raised them. A new teacher right out of college with a bachelor's or even possibly a master's is starting at $42,000 a year. And just like, I look at my own personal experience when my wife and I moved here in 2007, you know, we were double income. We made a decent amount of money, but the home that we've lived in for almost 20 years, we bought for $230,000 at 3.5% interest. That same home, if we had to put our house on the market today, it would cost, we'd sell it for $500,000 with interest rates, what, 6%, I think is the going rate about right now. You're looking at an almost $4,000 a month payment, you know, for a typical home in Prineville, and that's just out of reach for, you know, people with that general income. And I know this district has really tried to find ways to help and has looked at other options through other organizations around housing. And again, it kind of ends up being in that always low income housing bucket, which is just, it's hard. A lot of communities struggle with wanting to approve those. You get pushback from neighbors depending on where these are located. Where this is just basically a typical neighborhood where there's some incentive on the front end that then allows the developer to lower the price and allow for some of these, you know, more middle income earners to have an opportunity to get into housing. So, you know, when I first started in economic development in Prineville in 2007, this wasn't an issue. I mean, average home prices were like 180, 190, maybe 200. And I just think now of people trying to move in here for a job and, you know, how do you afford that home for your family? So this is a unique, I've never seen anything like this in the years that I've been involved with economic development. So it is a unique opportunity that really fits into an income bracket that I haven't seen the state or local governments be able to reach it, you know, at this point.
So is anybody here from HR? No.
They're on the screen.
Okay, well, but you think about that, you know, if you're out trying to hire people and this is an opportunity for someone to work in the county or the city or whatever, you know, you get somebody in here young, buying their first home, they're gonna stay in Prineville. You know, typically you're gonna stay where you purchase your first home. If you're renting, you know, it's much easier to move around. I know, once again, getting back to the school district, they see a lot of young kids coming in and actually renting in Redmond or Bend because, well, Redmond apartments are less expensive in Redmond. They're gonna live in Redmond because that's where they start setting down roots. You know, as soon as they can get a job in Redmond, they're gonna transfer over. Okay. So this is just as I explained. We would propose like a 10-year exemption. So for those new homes for 10 years, instead of paying the taxes would go to pay back this loan 0%. And then how this program works is for the first 10 years, if let's say you're a young deputy, you come in and you buy this first home. As soon as you buy that first home, you can make as much money as you can make, right? You're not limited on your income. You can work your way up the ladder. How that's better than other programs, right? You make more money and now you got to find a new home. If you want to sell that home within the first 10 years, it stays in the program. So you have to sell it to somebody making 120% or less. After 10 years, this is all done. Everything goes away. So you think about a young person, if you can buy your first home, and I think we talked about this more, when you're 24 years old versus 34 years old, that's going to change the direction of your life, right? Where you start getting that equity. And I know maybe when you're 24 years old, 10 years seems like a long time, but we all know it's a blink of an eye. So once again, I like this because it's not perpetuating that low income, for lack of a better term, on the government, you're giving them a foot up and then all of this goes away after 10 years. So moving forward. So what does this mean for the county? Are you guys on the hook for the money? Absolutely not. So myself as the developer, that land will have the lien against it. So that land is what the state's using to secure the funds. The county, you guys are basically procedural. The money has to go from the state to you guys and out. It's passing an ordinance, accepting an application. The state provides a sample ordinance that you can use. And once again, the developer and or the state takes the risk. You guys aren't backing any of the loan. Once again, just going back to, the need for those people working in the middle, those people that are actually, the backbone of your community, and how this really just gives them that first step up. Again, as I mentioned, no income trap. The income traps, I think, are one of the worst things we can do to disincentivize people from making more money, making better use of themselves. And after 10 years, the program's done. This isn't a low income housing. This is a nice housing development. We'll have HOA, CCNRs. And at the end of the day, you won't know this from any other neighborhood. It's not going to look like garbage. It's not going to have the Trans Ams up on blocks out in the front yard.
You might have to pick up.
Nope, the CCNRs will take care of it. Once again, so we're talking big project, 108 homes in Prineville. That's a significant impact to our community. That's 108 families that we could potentially help. And I think what we would see from a project like this is really building our community. You get young people that are setting down roots here. They're gonna become the members of our community and provide them with that stability they need. It's awful hard to raise a family if you're living in an apartment. So why would Crook County be the sponsor? This project could go through a city or a county. If it went through the city, the county still has to get into the agreement because you guys take care of the taxes, right? John's your tax assessor. That's how it has to go. And it's basically just the management of, instead of paying the taxes, it turns into the program to pay back the loan. City's not involved with this at all. They're not contributing any land, any SBCs. The good part about that is the city's not involved, so no restrictions on the land moving forward. They're paying their SDCs. And then this is where we're at. So it's an awesome project, guys. Barnes Butte, everybody know where the Barnes Butte rec area is. So this is our development here. This is Iron Horse, Polish, Barnes Butte Elementary. So this is where we would be doing this first development. 108 homes. It'll be adjacent to where the city would potentially be the rec center in the future. It's adjacent to all of that open space. Good walking community. You know, you can walk to your school, walk to the open Barnes Butte area. We'll have a commercial node in here, so you'll be able to walk to get coffee or a beer or something like that. And really try to turn it into a nice community. All of the smaller homes, so if we're trying to sell a home to somebody making $78,000 or less, that's a smaller home, but we're going to rear load them. So what that means is if you've been to a neighborhood that maybe has smaller homes with a front garage, you know, all you can see is that garage door. These will have alleys, so the front will look very, very nice, you know, very similar to Polish or Iron Horse. Have your access in the back, and once again, be able to provide a home to somebody to purchase their first home moving forward. Yes, just once again, that's kind of a different view, and we can stay on this one, but nice area right in the center of town. And this project would, you know, once again, be open to anyone, but the county could provide like preference points. So, you know, if you're a firefighter or you're a county employee, you could get preference points to where you would be able to purchase these homes before someone else.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, is how is it vetted for, I guess, to make sure that it is people working here in our community versus maybe someone moving from Bend or Redmond or.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, you know, in the past, when the city's opened up a bunch of apartment complex, you have people moving to our community for those. And so how this would work is neighbor impact, we would hire them to like manage, you know, the income part. And then let's say you had 4 homes available, you had 8 people apply. That's where the county could say, you know, if you live in Prineville for X amount of years, you get a point. If you're a public employee, you get another point. And, you know, once again, if nobody applied, then anybody could do that. You got to be careful, right? You don't want to discriminate against anyone. But, you know, for the county, for your HR department, you know, my gosh, here's a pretty cool opportunity for people to purchase their first home. And I think that's where the county could make it whatever they want, you know, all public employees, maybe all first responders.
Does that fit in with the mandates? Like the state is giving money to the county. Will the state accept that if we did that?
That's very much
I'm
part of
just-
it, because,
okay.
and I think that's the nice thing about this, and as Jason mentioned, they haven't done this before. I think there's been a lot of pushback on all of this low income housing, you know, for a long time, the low income housing has been what the state's been pushing, and to a point that does change the demographic of your community. You get a bunch of low income housing, and so this is more letting the local jurisdictions decide what they want.
I think it's also similar, and I've seen the state go this direction where like, not so much the standard enterprise zone, but the long-term enterprise zone, when companies qualify for that, there are additional requirements or negotiations that can occur with local communities that want additional things aside just from offering the tax benefit. And I think the state has heard that from a lot of local communities where they just feel like their hands are tied about, okay, well, this sounds good, but like, to her point about, well, how do we incentivize people that actually live in Prineville and Crook County? The state is allowing you guys as the sponsor to be able to create some parameters that would say we're going to, you know, provide a point system, for example, that prioritizes those that live in the community. There are a lot of state incentives that's just like across the board, this is how you have to apply them, this is how it works, whether you're in Portland or Prineville, I don't think I have to sit here and say how different Prineville and Portland are, right? So I think that that's one of the good things about this program is the state has allowed local communities to have a little bit more control about sort of the rules of engagement.
I was just thinking that there's somebody in Bend and they sue because they don't have preference points. That's, and discrimination. That was my point.
Yeah, and so,
Oh,
yeah,
excuse me.
the state's done a lot of
Okay.
thought on that, and that's the thing, is that person in Bend may get it if there's no one else.
Yes,
that-
but if there were, it would be fine for the, okay.
So kind of back to that. How many, do you have an idea of how many houses you, because if you put out 10 houses in a year. We're not likely to be hiring 10 new people in a year. You know what I'm saying? Like how, that concerns me a lot, because if you put out X amount of houses, then. If there aren't people in Crook County that need them, it doesn't really matter how many preference points are there. Because you're gonna have way more population in Redmond and maybe even Madras. Looking for a low cost home that, I mean, it seems like a really great program. And that's concerning, that it would be very difficult to control. When we have employees or the hospital or the school district or all those different places. And timing those with when houses come on the market.
Yeah, I'd want to work with you guys on that, Seth, you know, like, who is the county interested in this serving, right? You know, if you said. You've lived in Crook County for X amount of years, you know, maybe that's worth a point. Your county employee, city employee, school district employee, you know, whatever, maybe that's worth a point. These homes are gonna go pretty quick, you know, you're gonna have people that I think you're gonna have a waiting list, you know, for those and people applying ahead of time, because once again, I mean, that's a pretty good incentive if you can buy a house for $100,000 less than you could anywhere else. And, you know, once again, trying to guess the market, who knows? But
I think we can also.
What's your expected build out time? I'm assuming you're going to go in and start building just as hard and fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because there isn't anything tied to as to whether you sell them or not. Just say you build them.
well, but I gotta be able to sell them. Right?
He's only
Because
doing infrastructure.
this is just paying for the infrastructure. So if I if I build a house in there. The big thing I'm doing is I'm saying I will only sell it to people making 120% or less. And so there's no benefit to us to build them and then sit on that, you know, the time value of money.
What is your expected build out time?
Probably 3 years, I would hope. 4 years. Really depends on, you know, what that absorption rate looks like. And, you know, for us, we're trying to hit that 120% or less. And so like a $50 HOA makes a big difference, you know, the rate at which they're borrowing money. And so more than likely we'll team with like USDA to try to bring in some low interest loans. I know my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they're both teachers, and their first home, they went through USDA and they had to go to classes and stuff, and then their deposit or their down payment was waived and things like that.
Yeah, so historically for 50 years or more, there's always been the Farm Home Administration that's built these and been on a federal policy that's done it in programs and things. Which have kind of moved away and kind of sounds, I guess, maybe help me connect the dots, because what I'm visualizing here is the state's gonna put out some money for the infrastructure. And the reason, because the building's getting more expensive and SPCs are expensive. So is the city doing anything with the SPCs? Are they waiving SPCs? Or are they gonna continue to collect SDCs and that's part of your expenses?
Yeah, that's part of the expenses. This is primarily, it just takes care of the infrastructure, you know, these areas where the infrastructure is really expensive to bring in.
It's private financing that's gonna do the construction then for you, or are you on the state funds also?
This state funds would pay for the infrastructure,
And building the homes,
not the homes, no.
So it's just the infrastructure.
Yep, so we have a builder that's lined up that can meet the price point. You know, the land's all set up that we can meet these price points, and so we've had to set up a lot of different dominoes, you know, for this to work.
So so the state pays the money, but the county really pays the loan back through the taxes. So the county or the museum or Parks and Rec, for 10 or 15 years, won't see any tax advantage because on this program.
For 10 years, yes, and I think, you know, things to consider. This would be like 0.1% of the abatements that have been given to the data centers. And, you know, the first big Facebook swap is going to happen in 2027, you know, which would be prior to this happening. So kind of a unique situation for Crook County is, you know, yes, for 10 years, the taxes on those homes will go to pay back the loan. But Crook County is in a unique situation where, you know, during that 10 years, you're going to have all these data centers rolling onto the rolls.
Yeah, no, I understand that premise, but with the data center, there is, you know, prospects of a lot of money coming in at a later time, and there's also payment of taxes and enterprise zones and things like that. So there's a little more to consider into that. First of all, I think it's a great project. Absolutely. I think we need them. Where I'm looking at and connecting these dots is it's all gonna be on the county. Everybody's gonna get paid, and the county's is at the end of it is holding the bill that is going to be paying it back to our taxes. And so I see that, you know, some taxpayers might have a little bit of different, because they're not going to be participating in any, you know, the things that the county, I mean, our roads, our infrastructure, our admin, our everything that.
Law enforcement.
Yeah, law enforcement, our jail, everything that,
Maintenance, school maintenance.
everything that the county is responsible for is not gonna receive any, but yet we're still gonna have a cost for that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's a good point, you know, relative, it's a small number. And I think, you know, you mentioned like the school, okay, the school's not going to get funds for this, but potentially this could be a great resource for them to bring people in. So the county is not going to receive funds for this. But once again, if you can use this in your recruiting, that is a benefit, right?
Now, this is, okay, the economy flops and you build 10 homes and the economy totally flops and now you've got 7 sitting there unsold. But the infrastructures went in, so this loan came to the county, we have it, and we put it in there. Is there any repercussion back?
Not to the county. It's all,
There, so the state is willing to wait this whole 10 years until this is built out to get their money back, basically, is kind of what I'm asking you.
yeah, the lien goes against the property, right? That's the big deal. That's what, you know, I, as a developer, I'm taking that risk on. But once again, trying to line up the dominoes for this to work.
So if it doesn't sell for 4 years, then it's really 14 years without taxes.
It would be 10 years on the home. So your first home versus your 80th home or whatever, you know, they say approximately 10 years, depending on what the infrastructure costs. It could be 8, it could be 11. You know, it's just how long does it take to pay that back? And, you know, I mean, we kind of got to hold hands and walk through this, right? Like, if we develop it in this way, infrastructure is going to look different than if we develop it as a typical subdivision, you know, higher density here. I don't know if power is going to be 300,000 or $1.5 million. You know, those are the things we have to look at.
You talked about this a while ago, but the other thing that I'm concerned about is, you know, we have a lot of different contractors in town. It would only be for the developer that you work with. It wouldn't be open to any contractor that wants to build a house of this type.
It would be anybody that's willing to take on this risk, right? So you guys will, if you pass the ordinance, then, you know, the next step would be I would need to make an application to the city. Anybody could make an application to the city. Or to you guys, I'm sorry, to do this project. I don't think you're gonna have anybody else apply for this just because of all of the different things. And, that's a big deal. If you're a developer and you're leaning your property and say you're only gonna do this, like, yeah, I mean, anybody can do it if they want to. And maybe you're gonna have a lot of people say they're interested, but when they actually come down to it, then it's gonna get tough.
I think Seth's question was more about the builder, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the actual contractor, like, is it just gonna be the one?
Absolutely just one. I mean, but that's the thing is we're trying to hit a price point, right? So you're not gonna get that with a whole bunch of different builders doing that.
You've got to hammer it out cheap as you can hammer it.
Oh my God, you think about trying to sell a home to somebody making $78,000 or less. Like that is in this economy, I mean, you gotta put everything you can together to do that.
Well, Susie and I, we met those people from the Bumblebee. I mean, they would probably be able to do something
Yeah,
like that.
their projection, and I had told you that before, was 200 to 270, but they did something with their stem wall that enabled them to do the density, which you're not talking about. You're talking about individual single-family homes. And I want to mirror Brian's comment. I do think this is wonderful. I do think that we need a starter place for young couples to go. So I do, I'm just, this is a big decision. It's just, yeah, it's a little scary.
Absolutely.
It's a little scary.
So just getting back on the property taxes and acknowledging that without this program, maybe there's no property taxes for the county to forego, but have you had a chance to connect with the assessor to kind of put an estimate together about what the total amount of property taxes that we would be foregoing if we enter this program, right? So
You would be foregoing the cost of the infrastructure, right? So the state gives you a zero interest loan. So if it costs $1 million to get the infrastructure in there, then that is what,
but
pay back.
each tax lot is not going to be paying property taxes, right? They're going to be paying the program fee that goes back.
Correct,
to the state.
until that's.
So on each of those tax lots for the 10-year period that they're repaying or paying the program fees, the county's foregoing those property taxes.
Yes,
And so but at this point, we don't have an estimate for what like the total would be for the 108 homes.
I'm thinking it's probably gonna be about $4 million. To get the infrastructure in there. And I think that's where, same argument that was made with the data centers. Well, yeah, you're giving up on the taxes, but there's nothing there right now to tax anyways. And so. I don't know. I mean, if not, then you go in and you do a typical iron horse subdivision. And that builds out as that builds out. So.
Yeah, as an Agworth resident, I can tell you that a vast majority of the people that have moved in the last 5 years are from out of the county. They do not live here or haven't. And most of them are buying homes in the $400,000 to $650,000 range. So there are people coming in who are already more established, have equity, and we're able to.
I was gonna say, how many of them are of the age bracket you're looking at? They're in your older, they've already,
I would
Yeah.
say 45 and above.
Yeah.
There's a few families that have moved in, but a majority around, the DR Horton homes, which are the ones that kind of overlook the courthouse and stuff. Some of those are a little bit more, family affordable, but they're still, most of them, well over $400,000. But I think ultimately, the questions you guys are asking are questions that I got when I started in economic development 20 years ago here, even with the enterprise zone, which is that question of what are we giving up and getting in return? And there's always a risk to that, number one, and then a B of what's the value of the return down the road. And as elected leaders, that's obviously something you have to mull over and decide if that's where you want to go. The way I look at it is I don't think it's any different than the shorter period is shorter than like a typical business getting a 5-year exemption versus a 10, but it's still the same argument of, well, we're giving up those taxes to fund our public services for that period of time so that business can grow and have that little bit of offset in taxes and cost for that 5-year period to help their business grow. It's a little bit different because this is not a company manufacturing something, but it's the same concept.
So it's, you know, your constituents and those of your constituents that are in that, you know, they're stuck right in the middle there and, you know, what do they do? So that would be a benefit to those.
And I know from Health Council, we do surveys all the time. I think that's all we do, but basically, we're a 60 to 74 demographic. It goes like this and then it goes up like that. And so to me, when you're talking about Iron Horse or those places, that's the demographics you're gonna look at because they have that sort of money. We're trying to increase, but a society doesn't work on 60 to 74. We need a teacher that's down in, like you guys, all young. Happy New Year. Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, to Seth's earlier point too, I think that one of the things we're trying to do is between working with local realtors, meeting with the school district, the hospital, the public safety agencies, is trying to promote this program as locally as possible and really try to find, okay, who are the folks that are out there that A, aren't getting into a home because they can't afford it, B, maybe just moved here and they got a job somewhere and are interested in buying a home. And then of course your realtors are they're gonna have a really good idea of who is in the market, you know, for a home. So, you know, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that it's as local as possible in terms of who it's impacting and who ends up applying.
And have you had feedback from realtors? Do they feel this is gonna be an easy sell? Or I'm assuming you checked that out because you need to get rid of that end product.
Well, I'll give you an example. So many of you know Kim Molnar, who, you know, was at the chamber for years. Her home that she just sold right down the street was less than 400,000, and it didn't even get on, like, her realtor didn't even put it in MLS and it sold. Because the realtors, it was at a price point that people can afford. And they were able to connect with buyers that they already knew on the back end before it even went onto the market. But her home is a rarity in terms of the price point. So I think that's where you're noticing, that's what we're hearing, is homes under 400,000 are going pretty quickly. It's once you get over that 400,000 threshold that they're on the market for, you know, a lot longer. Or you just lose a certain contingency of folks that just can't afford that, you know, that mortgage unless they have $200,000 in equity to cut that payment in half.
I think it'd be interesting, you know, as we want to be careful too, like we wanted to talk to you before we get out there too much, but you know, what do your department heads think about this, you know, as they try to staff their positions, you know?
Well, I think our assessor feels like it's gonna be a lot more work and he's not gonna get another FTE to help pay
Who is
for it.
that?
Our assessor. I think he would look at it as there's a lot more work for him to do and he's not gonna get another FTE to help him out.
1% of the project would go to pay the assessor. And then there's how much percent goes to so yes, that's a good point. There are funds that come to you guys to manage this burden. So I'd have to look into it, but I believe 5% would go directly to the county to manage this and 1% would go to the tax assessor to do
That's-
his.
Well, it's looking better.
That's your administrative costs and would be
Yeah.
5%? Is that a doable, is Christina still in here?
Yeah.
Is that a doable thing?
We'd have to look at the numbers and actually get the details of how it all lines out to really have a good idea.
And I think that's the thing, is this, we're hitting you with a lot of information. I think those are great questions, you know, I can find out exactly what those
Yeah.
percentages are. I know it is 1% that goes to the assessor and it has to go to the assessor. And then there's either 5 or 10% that would go to the county and then the county can decide what they want to do with that.
So are you gonna get hooked with, if you build a dozen homes and sell them? And there's no way to pay that back until they're sold. What happens with that? I mean, are you gonna pay taxes or are you gonna have to pay the houses?
I gotta pay
or-
the taxes, yeah, yeah, as soon as they're built, I gotta start paying taxes, and so, you know, that's what I get it,
Yeah.
that. You know, I think from, you know, what Seth said, are other people gonna be upset? Well, anybody can do this if they're willing to take the risk on, right, and. I mean, my God, I'm 49 years old, I haven't gone bankrupt yet, so let's roll the dice and see what happens. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think when I was with the city for 15 years, I don't know how many times housing projects came up and it just never worked for the people that
Well, I started
manage your
to start,
community. It's all the low income staff or higher end staff.
Well, you've worked for the city a long time and you have done amazing things for the city, and the city's in the position it is today because of you. So I have all the faith in your abilities to do things. I'm just, my biggest holdup is that I feel like the county is paying the bill on it. And, I just wish that there was some other, people helping pay for that.
Well,
And
the
I-
city,
and I-
everybody would be waiving the taxes, so city wouldn't be getting the taxes.
Certainly, but everybody that, the city still gets to see some income. It gets SDCs, it gets water, it gets sewer, it gets roads. And, the county doesn't get anything for the roads or anything. So that's concerning. And I think that the taxpayers are not gonna be completely wild about it. Some of them aren't wild about the data centers, but they do pay taxes, they pay property taxes. And the other taxes are coming forth, and, so, I don't know.
I also think, I know it sounds like it's a little more work, but I also think it would be good to have the city have buy-in too.
Yeah, I've talked to staff and they're,
through the
yeah, they're,
process. I mean, I think, it sounds like there's extra layers, but, all these homes will be in the city. So I think it's important to get them to be part of the process as well.
yeah, for sure.
And this is why we didn't want to come to an actual commission meeting and hit you with it and say, now vote.
yeah, no, this is a big.
That's
Yeah,
not
I
good.
would really like to know our administration, what it would cost, because we don't wanna go in the hole if we did this. So if you can get that, kind of like what Will is asking for, a little bit more of the financials, that would be really beneficial.
And more specifically, what the actual cost is. Of talk to John and say at 108 homes built at this level at this time, what would be the tax burden or tax loss to the county?
Yeah, I think I'm just not explaining that well, so let me try to get something to you guys to explain that. It's basically the tax burden is the cost of the infrastructure, so if it's gonna cost $3 million to get the improvements in there, those taxes that would have been paid will go to pay back that $3 million. When that's done, then they're on the tax rolls.
Yeah, but there's also a value of money today versus later, and I think it'd be interesting to look at that.
I'll also show you what you're currently making on taxes on that farm deferral piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I guess the other thing that kind of I have some questions about is that, as from a developer, you're gonna wanna hammer them out, sell them as quick as you can. I mean, that's the thing. So when you start doing points to who's going to move into them, your base changes substantially. Because you need to sell them, and so anybody that can come up with the points or can get moved into them can. And so it's not gonna be built at a rate of whatever workforce comes to Prineville to work. It's going to be whoever needs a house. Because those points are not gonna help Prineville people, necessarily.
I think that as we move forward, we'll talk to the school district. They can come in and say, we think we would need X amount, talk to your department heads. I mean, how many of them would be interested in this, Jackie, it's dumped, how many people? would
I have
potentially-
an employee this would be amazing, like he fights moving out of the area every day because he can't afford housing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll shock you how many people are stuck in that. Just not able to buy their first home.
So are you gonna hold any public meetings? Are you going to city council? Are you doing any outreach or?
We will, for sure.
Okay,
We want to, make sure respect you guys, bring it to you first, answer any questions, and then, start talking to the school district more and, talking to the sheriff, those. Once again, we want to make sure that we're pulling the
Sure.
chain in the same direction, and who are you guys interested in this serving?
And it would kind of be valuable to hear what they have to say, like Jackie just said she has one, so there you go, now you got one up there on the list, but yeah, to hear back what they feel.
Your sheriff, how many young recruits do they hire a year? Would this be of interest to them? The fire department, how many people are they hiring that would be in that wage range? It's pretty high, so you don't have to be a young teacher, you just have to make less than that $78,000. So that could be somebody that's a 15-year teacher at the school district,
But I think, oh, go ahead.
One more question. So from reading that information, I guess there's still one thing I'm not completely clear about, and I understand that if the county does it smooths the process, it's a lot easier to go through with it. But the city can do it. And I guess the question that it doesn't really say in here, and it kind of alludes to it, is that really the county doesn't have any say in it. If the county doesn't want to do it, and the city wants to do it, the program's gonna happen anyway, and the taxpayers are gonna be on the hook for it. Is that correct?
I don't think that's correct.
It has to
No,
come
because
through
it
the
has to
county
be
regardless.
I think it has to be a taxing district, doesn't it, and we're the game in town.
Yeah, I know that in my mind, Brian, it makes sense to come to the county because you guys are the tax ascension. To answer that question, if we took it to the city, could they force feed this to you? I don't know that.
Because the way I read it, it can, but
Yeah.
I mean, no, to read things too well sometimes. So anyway, I'm interested in that. I mean, is it? Are we kind of forced to do it one way or the other?
Yeah, well, no, not if we come here and ask you about it. I don't know if we
Yeah.
went through the city, but once again, the city doesn't manage the tax collection and stuff like that.
No, I realize that, but the program is a go whether the county wants to go or not.
Yeah,
But if that happened and the city took it up again, administrative costs for Christina, because she would be the manager. So that would be again another factor. You'd have to think about, because we'd still have to,
I think administratively, then the city could manage it administratively, but John still has to be involved.
yeah,
right?
somehow we would have to still. Be. And we'd
Well,
have
it
to look,
kind of sounds like the city's gonna manage it anyway.
They have said they would help with that.
And it's gonna run through the city just like any other typical development in terms of the land use process and
Absolutely.
all that other stuff. So there's nothing different about that process. I mean, I've thought about, I've thought about my own neighborhood association and a few others, Polish. People tend to get a little early when they hear anything about low income, so it's probably two groups that I'm gonna go talk to just to let them know what's going on and what this is. But there's so much development happening in that neighborhood that, but I think it's good regardless to let citizens know when they're next to something that's even a little bit different, just so they understand what it is and, we can answer questions in that.
and the state doesn't put any requirement on us having low income in this track. I mean, is there any requirement that way? And when I say low income, you know what I'm trying to say, like you build apartments, so many have to be dedicated per certain. There is no, of the 108 homes, it's all market
It's-
income, there's our
yes.
income, there's not any, okay. There's not any caveat that we have to say 2 hours.
It's just 120% or less, and
Okay.
so,
Okay.
For one person, if you make $78,000 or less, you would be good.
That is one of the unique things about it, is it doesn't have those
Yeah,
additional.
which usually
Yeah,
they
that
do,
you have to
there's
make.
always a little fish hook at the end there, okay.
Yeah.
What about actual public engagement? I mean, it sounds like you're gonna talk to some people in the subdivision, but, I think it's important to talk to the different partners, but I think it's also important to weigh in with the people
So there's a whole process, the first step would be the county would pass an ordinance. The state gives you a sample ordinance that says, yes, we're interested in it. And then, you have your ordinance process, then if you did that, then we would apply and say, you know, this is what we're doing, and that's all held in a public forum.
So you could have an ordinance without approving a project.
Yeah, the ordinance just says that you're interested in it, you would potentially accept application.
And that would be our public process, I'm assuming, Seth.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I think it would be helpful before
Oh,
we
I agree.
approve that ordinance, that you go out and do talk to the citizens, not just the partners that would be using it. I think that's something that I really want to see, is you guys engaging with the regular folks of Crook County and what they think about, you know, getting this break. And I think it would be good to have those numbers showing them, you know, what would be paid. I know there's nothing there now, but what would be paid versus not be paid if it was just a traditional building.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, and that's, once again, we wanted to talk to you before we got that snowball
Yeah.
going, but then, you know, have those people that are interested and come and talk to you. You know, so many times you just have people showing up at meetings that are opposed to something. You never have people that are supportive of it. So, you know, get those young families here telling you where they're at, you know.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've talked about is like a potential, just a meeting like at Barnes Beach, for example, because one of the first things when Eric called me to help with the project, is I said, even though this is not low income, because of the fact it's right next to Barnes Beach, I guarantee you that there are some parents that are gonna ask the question, what is this and who's gonna be moving next to my kid's school, right? And I think that's a common and very understandable reaction, and so I think those are some of the things that we want to do, to your point, Seth, is have some of those meetings and invite people to learn more about the project, so.
Which,
Well, it's still not gonna be homeless people moving into them. They're gonna be.
Well, but that's the thing, you know, the
Rich-
misinformation
Rich
that'll get out there. Facebook disgusts me with just how people will
but the thing
act
about,
like they
You
know.
still have to have a good job in order to be able to buy it, so.
yeah, but still, it's just like the biomass thing. The biomass thing was present, and then all of a sudden there was this big surge. And that might be what happens when we do this ordinance, because unfortunately, people go through life and don't really see anything, and then all of a sudden there's an issue. So that's, I agree with Seth, and I don't know if it's gonna come with that ordinance process or whatever, but
That's what I'm trying to not happen. I mean, we saw how that process worked. I mean, I think it was, you know, on paper, it was there was a lot of positive things. But then, you know,
The misinformation.
by the process
yeah.
that went through, a lot of people, you know, really had some negative thoughts about it that I think could have been vetted earlier. And I'm hoping, that's what I'm asking, is to
Yeah,
vet
absolutely, Seth, but you know,
that process.
we wanted to talk to you first, right? If
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
having
no, I
these
know,
meetings,
and that's, I think, part of this
And
conversation
that,
is
but again,
talking about things that we want to see happen through the process to make sure that the citizens are on board, and it's not just government telling the citizens that they need this. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely, and you know, selfishly, I want you guys to hear from the people that are stuck right there, right?
Yeah.
Like, probably all of us have already bought our first home and we don't remember how scary that was and that whole process.
So is this a new frontier? Are you breaking ground on this, or are there any other programs that elsewhere that's going on?
Has anybody else in the state used this program?
There's a couple working through the process right now, but nobody's done it yet. But if it was easy, everybody would do it.
I'd be interested in hearing, can you give us a list of those communities so we can talk to people in those areas and how it's working and how the community's seeing it?
Yeah, yes, they're working through the process. I don't think anybody has done it yet, but I can try to find out who's working through the process, maybe.
It would be helpful, at least for me, to talk to other officials in other areas and seeing what they're hearing and if they're farther along. And
First come, first served on allocated funds.
It's one-time money, so it's not like the state is gonna continually refund this program, so once that $100 million is used up, then, or if it doesn't get used up, then
they'll
state
find
government,
another
the
use
state
for it.
government does, which is reallocate it somewhere else.
It'll be to ODOT before the summer's done. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, we hit you guys with a lot of information, but, you know, the fundamental takeaway I'd want you to think about is, you know, just those people that are stuck in the center, what do we do for them? How do we help them out? And, you know, there's pluses and minuses to everything.
Yeah. I really
So
appreciate
next
it.
steps with you guys, I'll provide some information to Christina and Will, right? They can share that with you. And then, you know, for me, if we're gonna do this, I need to go quick, right? Time, value, money and stuff's just sitting. So is that something, how often do you guys do workshops? Once a month?
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
So, yeah, so kind of actual cost of the county, what the county is receiving through the assessor and funds for management. Maybe a plan on public meetings and outreach. Yeah, guys, what else do we?
Yeah, I think I know where you're at. Once again, this is
Other communities that are working through this and kind of contacts to be able to chat with those folks. I think also, you know, number of people in the community, I think that's a really good, that would be probably the most powerful piece of this that you presented is the amount of people in our community that are in that position where this would be something that would fit them versus the amount of homes that you're building and speed wise. I mean, that's my biggest concern is that we have, let's just say 10 people here that want this. We build 20 homes and now those second group of people that will be coming in the future have missed out on this. And we're bringing
Yeah,
people
and
in
stuff, I
from
think
other
that's where, like, you know, look at your bell curve or whatever, you know, you have your low income earners and your high income earners. This is for 120% or less. So that's like, you know, more than 50% of your population. But that's the thing is you have more than 50% of your population that can't afford a home right now. And so I think that's what, you know, I need to try to explain that in a way that makes sense because 120% or less or of the average income. And that's just where we're in such a weird area where the people that can afford a home are the top 70-80%.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm really interested to see what the actual numbers of need are versus the build out and what that looks like. Because if we're now bringing people in from Bend and Redmond and they're buying those homes, then Crook County is subsidizing some business in Redmond and Bend.
Yeah,
And that's just concerning to me. That, you know, but
sure.
I'm not saying that's the fact. That's something that would be very interesting for me to see.
And I'm fighting for 126, so I don't need any more cars on
Yeah.
126. I need them to stay here is what I need.
And that's what this does, right?
Yeah,
This
and
tries
that's
to get
exactly what
people
you're trying to
stuck
do.
in, you
And
know,
that's,
staying in
and that's
Triangle.
very beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Thank you.
so maybe tentatively. I'll get that information. You said you're not having another meeting this month?
No, we don't have a meeting on the 25th, so it'll be the second Wednesday in April, next work session.
Okay.
The board meeting next week, and then the first, I think it's April 1st, is our next regular board meeting.
Quicker we get it though, the more we can read it.
Well, and that's the thing, is like a month is a long time for me right now, so.
Yeah.
If we do this and maybe we'll hold some public hearings and just invite you guys to hear from the public on it. You know, cause
That'd be good. I really do think it's gonna come up to when that ordinance comes. Is when we're gonna get the most public outreach, I think.
yeah, and hopefully it would be good.
And yes,
Public.
that's what we want, is good to know.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, because I think in terms of a housing project, it's typical of in the right zoning, it's in an area where homes are already being built. But it's the way that it's being financed,
Yes.
or that part of it that I think where the concern would come from. Not the development itself, but more the structure of it.
Yeah, I have no doubts that they're making a nice subdivision.
Yeah.
I just
Well, and
don't-
that's the hope,
I just
right?
don't want the county to pay for it, so.
Yeah,
Completely.
Completely, yeah. But let's see how it works out.
yeah, I mean, it's a county, it's a vector control district, it's anybody that's taxed in there, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mhm. I'm worried about the school because of their maintenance issues. You know, they haven't been able to get a bond across and you're taking 108 homes and you possibly have 200 children, which just add more of a burden onto your school maintenance.
Yeah, that one's tough because of
Yeah, I
the
mean,
state
that's a really
common
tough one.
school fund and the way the funding works,
Yeah.
where all of it goes into a pool of the state and then the state distributes it out. So there's never a $1 for $1 match
No.
on taxes raised locally that go directly to the school district. So that's.
That's true.
But
one can
I think
hope.
you would hear the board members say that, you know, those apartments is what's hurting the school district right
Oh,
now.
sure.
You got a lot of young families with a, you know, different demographic coming in, and that's a lot for them. But yeah, once again, we'll start.
Yeah,
going
thank
out
you
there.
very much for the
We appreciate your
information.
time.
I think it was very interesting. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, and then as far as like communicating with you guys, we gotta be careful, right? So like if we're gonna hold a public forum, I just let Will know and he can let you guys know.
Brianna's the one
Brianna
who
will let
knows.
Brianna.
Brianna, I think, what do we need to do? Is it
So if
48
you
hours
hold a-
before?
Yeah, if you hold a public forum, then I just need to be able to send out the notice.
No, I'm just saying, like, how do I tell these guys, hey, we're gonna do this at Barnes Butte on this date, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to email you guys all three at once.
Yeah,
No, you can just email.
Just do Brianna, and Brianna
Yeah.
knows the rules. She takes care of us.
Okay.
We lose
But I think
Brianna.
a lot of us are gonna be gone during the last week
of March.
of March,
Yeah.
so that might not be,
Spring break.
yeah, that might not be a great time.
Well, what I was thinking is I was gonna be here, so I just declare a monarchy, and I could be the queen, but, I don't know. these
Paint the
people.
courthouse pink again.
Yeah, paint it pink. Yeah, I was thinking that would work real well, but I don't think they'll go for it. But yeah,
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys' time, and once again, that was a lot of information, but
Yeah, thanks for the questions.
yeah,
keep working through the process.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very, very
Thank you.
much. You did a good presentation. Guess who's next?
Jackie,
So Jackie Davis, landfill director, I am looking to replace our outbound scales. Brianna, did you get the photos of the?
Wrong computer. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're gonna be a little wider.
No.
No?
We're still on the
you
money.
got your answer.
Yeah. We got the money, Christina? No.
Just the photo.
Not even 3 or 4 inches?
Oh, look at how dirty that is.
So this that you're looking at is our outbound scale that's really hard to see unless you're, in person.
I've seen it a few times.
I was gonna say, I just was up there, so I know what it looks like.
So these scales are over 20 years old. If you can get 30 years out of a scale, you're doing very well. I don't know the exact years. I've been there for 20 years and I know we purchased one from the road department that they had for several years at sat, so I know they're over 20 years, but the steel decking down the middle is separating and it is lifting. So we knew we were gonna have to do some work to the scales, so in our budget this year for capital, we put $200,000 towards scale replacement costs. We reached out to 4 different companies. We did hear back from 3 that physically came out and took a look at our scales. We were hoping maybe just to redeck the scales. It was all 3's opinion not to do that, mostly just because of the aging structure itself and the components that go with that scale. If you just did the redeck, then potentially if those other components fail, you're looking at anywhere from 50 to 70% of a replacement cost of the scale anyway, just to get the rest of the components fixed. So replacement is the better option. So we did get bids back from 2 companies, 2 out of 3 that came to look. Unitech came back with a bid of $113,000 for a scale system that is only 100,000 pound capacity. Our current scale is 120,000 pound capacity, so it's not as large there. The decking material on this scale is also thinner, but the bid does include the scales, the shipping, the crane service, guide rails, removal of the scales, placing the new ones. So that was the first bid that came back, and then we got another one from Scales Northwest. It has 120,000 pound capacity. Just a little over $100,000, includes all of those same features, the shipping, the crane services, the guide rails installation. So what we're hoping to do is to purchase scales from Scales Northwest and have them complete the scale replacement on the outbound side. This is how we make our money, so those scales are important to us. We have not reached out, we kind of had an inside track on the city possibly needing some scales. So our thought is to hold on to those scales and maybe see if we can find somebody locally to resell or get some money back out of those used ones. There's still some life left in them, but what we need, we just want to replace them while we can.
So you said for Unitech, it was a thinner deck.
Yeah.
Is on Northwest, is that a thicker
It is
deck?
a thicker deck.
So it's gonna last longer, and you've got 20,000 extra pound.
20,000
Yeah,
extra
so-
pounds. It is the cheaper of the two. Also, Scales Northwest is our current company for service and maintenance on the scales we have right now, so we're familiar with how they work and what they provide, so,
I've had them come out and work on the cattle scales, and they do good work.
yeah. And then we reached out to, two other companies, like I said, they didn't respond. One was Fairbanks Weighing Solutions. And then the other one was American Scales. They did come out and take a look, but they did not provide a bid. The other concern from people is, our inbound scale is longer. It's 90 feet versus the outbound being 65 feet. Right now, replacing this for these costs, we can utilize the approaches that we have in place now. We don't have to rebuild those, so we're saving money there. But in the future, the reason we can't expand that scale now is because the entrance to our transfer station bins next to our scale house, if we add that one more section to make it just as long, that entrance is in the way. So we have to wait till we can get funds available to redo that transfer station area up top. And then at that point, hopefully we'll be able to just remove that one scale approach, add a section and one additional scale approach, and then that'll get us the same length as our inbound. Right now, we just weigh those larger vehicles in and out on the inbound. It's not an issue for us. We're not that busy. So it's working the way it's working right now, so.
So you could expand this if you got some additional room?
Yes,
The current one we're looking to purchase?
yeah, and that would probably be the plan, is to do that, but
Okay.
we just have to be able to redo that transfer station bin up top there, to remove where the entrance is currently and put it on.
It is really
the-
close.
Yeah,
So do we need to, do we need to make a motion as far as what bid we're accepting, or is Jackie?
Well, I guess that's the question. Is that for approval today, Jackie, or for next week?
next week's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little over 100,000, so I just wanted to bring it to you
Okay,
guys.
I mean, I'm for Northwest in my opinion, so,
Yeah, it seems like that's the thing that fits what we need the most.
yeah.
He will roll it to consent.
You're gonna have to remodify this one to add on to the other one when you move the location there.
Well, we have to
Yeah,
modify,
yeah.
all we'll have to do is just remove the northern approach, and then we can add a section and just build a new approach, so. We don't have to recalibrate or anything like that, we'll just be able to add in and tie it all together.
Who comes and calibrates for you, the state?
The state does the testing,
Hmm.
if we have any variances, then Scales Northwest comes out.
That's what I was gonna say, that's what happened to me, so I wondered.
Yeah.
Okay,
You have to inspect them every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the state comes out every year.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, and you have to get that little whatever certificate.
Sell them, have to be inspected.
Great, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
Will, are you gonna?
Yeah,
I'm happy to. I have not been involved in the negotiations, don't have a lot of background information, so I can walk through the amendment, but I know
Yeah.
you've been a little bit more involved, so if you want to take the lead on this.
Sure.
I mean, I'm happy- I'm happy to-
walk through it and then I can answer questions that I have information.
So there's a proposed amendment to the agreement for operation and management of the Crook County Open Campus Building. That's the building over off of Lynn. COCC and Crook County, as you know, collaborated in the construction of the open campus building. The original agreement was entered on or about November 1st, 2015. The agreement provides for the creation of 3 separate reserve accounts for building maintenance, IT equipment, and furnishings. The agreement currently specifies the maximum amounts for each of the 3 reserve accounts and describes how the parties will contribute into those reserve funds. The proposed amendment notes that the parties are interested in modifying how the 3 reserve accounts are managed and make some other modifications. So Section 2 of the current agreement is modified. This is the annual operation budget. Note COCC shall be responsible for the operation budget of the campus in accordance with COCC's budgeting policies. And those revenues from the building will be managed by COCC as part of the operation budget. And then it describes the contribution to the reserve accounts or reserve fund. And that it includes the amount. So for fiscal year 26-27, the each COCC and the county each would contribute 70,000, 27-28, each would contribute 80,000, 28-29, each would contribute 90,000, and 29-30, each would contribute 100,000. The proposed amendment also modifies section 3, which is the reserve fund and spending authority section of the agreement. It notes that the county shall serve as the custodian of a single reserve fund set aside for the following purposes: IT, voice over internet and telephones. That's 1. 2 is furnishings, and 3 is building maintenance. Except as otherwise provided, operational costs will be paid by COCC. The maximum accumulation of the reserve fund will be $1 million. COCC will submit requests for reimbursements for qualified expenses to the county. And the county will thereafter reimburse COCC for qualified expenses from the reserve fund. Allocations out of the reserve fund must be approved by both parties, confirmed in writing, regardless of dollar value. Each party will designate in writing the persons authorized to approve such purchases. And that's the proposed amendment in short. I don't know, I see Christina's still here. There's, talk about kind of redoing the reserve fund. I don't know if you have any comments on.
Tim's also on too. He's part of the process. As well.
Okay. Okay, great. So that's the agreement in a nutshell. Happy to hear from folks who are more involved in the.
So this is something we came up with a few years ago, I think as an actual county to move forward. Just because of the cost, we saved a bunch of money in there, but IT and, building maintenance and all these things are not cheap. And so we just want to make sure that we're set for the future.
I thought that there were 3 separate funds and we were talking about getting rid of one. And I thought, in my mind, I thought it was furnishings because it's furnished, but am I wrong in that or no?
That's not how I remember it. I think
Okay.
because, again, there's a lot of chairs and desks and all those
Oh,
things.
yeah, I get it.
And they're used quite a bit and just kind of maintaining. And I think that was something that actually Tim pushed really hard at the very beginning of the process. And I think he's done that with an extension, but probably the extension office of making sure that there's dollars there when you do need them. So it's not, down the road, well, we need to replace all this. We got to put money into it. And so I think that was kind of the plan of this process to make sure that we do have dollars. We're doing they are doing quite an extensive revamp of the IT infrastructure, the wires, all the different things. They're having a lot of issues with them. And that's obviously, we've seen that in other places, it's not cheap, but I'll let Tim speak to that a little bit.
Where does this money come from, Christina? That's my next question.
Yeah, the county's contribution comes from lottery funds.
Tim? Oh, go ahead.
So, to Susie's point, I too thought that COCC was gonna propose kind of a collapsing of the 3 reserve funds into just 2 reserve funds. Still identifying furnishings as a long-term capital replacement, but probably lumping it into the building maintenance side and then IT, because it's more of an annual replacement. The computers, like Seth said, they're gonna go through and do a major upgrade on all the connectivity of the classrooms for remote access and that kind of stuff. This spring and summer, keep the IT fund separate. But there was some conversation about sort of, do we really need to, we used to have like $30,000 as a ceiling for furnishings and I sort of thought we just sort of still identifying furnishings as an expense, but putting it and having just 2 funds.
And what this amendment does is collapses the 3 into a single reserve fund for all of those purposes, the IT, the furnishings, and the building maintenance.
So it does. Okay, my question, Tim, is how much money is in this, in these funds right now? Is there anything?
Yes.
Okay, what the number is?
Seth and I, gosh, we were at a meeting with them a couple, 3-4 weeks ago. Seemed like right now there's maybe 200 to 250,000, if I'm guessing correctly. With anticipated spending for that IT around 100,000 in upgrades, because we're replacing. I think they're replacing all the computers in the computer lab, which is about 25. And then there's a couple of dozen laptops that float around the building for classroom use, more flexible use. Those are replaced like on an every 3 or 5 year schedule. So they're kind of up. The building, I thought about it this morning, the building is now 15 years old. I think we had the ribbon cutting in 2011. And so, you know, some of this stuff, the IT particular, is just time to cycle it out. We have cycled computers out before, so, but the servers and some of the camera work and microphones in the classrooms, this will be an upgrade for them.
I would imagine even probably the data wiring was probably all 3 and 5 back then, and now it's 6 and,
Oh, yeah.
so.
Yeah, the original ceilings on the 3 funds seemed like we had 30,000 on the furnishings. We had 50,000 on IT, and we are on the building, and we had 75,000 on IT. And that was 15 years ago when we established all of that. And all those costs continue to go. And as Seth pointed out, the philosophy behind the reserve funds is to save money for replacement, instead of when you discover you need a replacement, you have to go beg and borrow for the funds to do those replacements. So that's the philosophy behind the reserve funds. Set us a little bit every year, and then you'll have it.
This is not to, I agree that we need the building and we need the education, all that, but if those lottery funds weren't put into this, what, Christina, would they go, could we use them for something else?
So the lottery funds are not totally restricted, but they're supposed to be used for some type of economic development.
Okay.
so it would need to go to some kind of.
Like the fairgrounds.
Well, that's drift of where I was going on this a little bit. Okay, thank you, Casey, but yeah, I just.
Was that Casey?
Yes, it was, but that's
He
okay.
just got a big Christmas present, so
Yeah.
hands off.
I agree with the importance of it, Tim. I want you to know, but I felt that question needed to be asked, and it was answered by two people in the room, which is great.
Well, the building, so back in, when open campus was conceived and whatnot, it was a theory in order to get COCC back was we had a lot of place-based learners, people who wanted to advance, their education. Remember in 2008 through 11, the recession, people couldn't even afford to drive to Bend, take time off from their jobs to continue their education. So through the BTOP grant, a federal program at the time, and some significant other funding partners, the county was able to partner with COCC, build that building. It is since used to deliver educational degree credit type classes by COCC. It's used by some other local community groups for their meetings. And if you want to see how busy it is, just come visit the parking lot 3 days a week. Most of their classes are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's a lot of Crook County residents attending classes in that building. So I think it still is continues to be a good investment on the county in order to meet the needs of the county residents. That's my commercial.
It was a very good commercial, Tim. I wasn't gonna vote against it. I just wanted to ask that question.
I mean, might as well get to put this on consent
Yeah,
for next week.
great. Any more questions? Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll into consent.
Hi, Christina.
Sorry, gotta take my. Let me do that.
Maybe.
Baby Plum.
Morning, everyone. Katie Plum, Health and Human Services Director for the county. I have a reworked agreement for school-based health center. We have been coordinating with Oregon Health Authority to ideally streamline the amendments that we have in place and increase transparency between all parties that are involved. So this document will do that. We might have some language adjustments from the school district that wouldn't change the dollar amount. So I think Eric and I could probably manage those. It's about campus safety language that their legal counsel is still deciding if they want included as part of this or not. We'll also have, I'll be working on before July 1, a fiscal amendment to this one. Just as we go into next fiscal year 27, the dollars that we get from the state will likely change. So I would bring that back to you, but it would be based off of just this agreement being amended as opposed to multiple. So right now we have multiple agreements with individual entities. This combines it into one. There's also some changes happening at the state level about services provided at school-based health centers. So I would bring those programmatic changes to you for consideration at the same time as the next fiscal amendment. But for now, this document will we'll have our programmatic and fiscal agreements set for the rest of this fiscal year. Time is of the essence on this one because Mosaic has been providing services since January without a contract in place. This document would allow us to reimburse that
I have it here printed, so.
that would be really helpful.
I have two questions. Okay, one, so it says that they need to provide a lab and they need to provide, when they're talking about the structure, is that provided at Mosaic or is that at the school? And what school or? It's a lot of space, it seems, for each school to provide. That's why I'm kind of asking.
So school-based health center is
Yes.
one physical location where they have like all of those
those things.
services have to be.
And where is that?
There. It is behind Stevens Pillar.
Okay,
Or the Church of the Nazarene, isn't it Church
Yeah,
of the
it's across the
Nazarene,
street.
right
Okay.
across the street from there?
and then my other question is, so it's OHA and it's gonna go to Mosaic, but we have to be involved. So how often do you go check this or see the operations or what's going on? How often is that done?
I have, I think now we're at every other month partner meetings that I attend, and we have staff that are coordinating with them, we liaise between school-based health center and the schools. Private, so we're embedded as well as I have oversight on at least a bi-monthly cadence.
So do you actually go and look? Okay, that was a concern I had. All right.
I'm good to move forward. You good?
Yeah.
So do we sign it now or do we sign it? I mean, obviously we have to vote, but
Well,
So I think there,
what's your motion here?
so I
do we
think
want to do it out of the meeting or now? Go in there.
yeah, I think there are two issues. The first, Katie said that there would be some possible revisions related to some of these services, but I gather
That's for, next
Yeah.
fiscal year.
next
It would
fiscal
be
year,
a-
okay. So then, yeah, I don't think it's gotta be a particularly ornate motion, just move to approve the school-based health center multi-party agreement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, and then you did say signed out of session. Did you
Well,
put that on your thing?
We have
We
it
have
here.
here,
I have it right here.
All right,
Brianna is 3 steps ahead of us, so.
sorry. I just want to make sure. I didn't know if I heard it.
Four G,
Okay, good.
four.
Okay, I'm ready to vote now. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Oh my God.
Robert, aye. Do you want to take it with you? Should we do it right now real quick and then?
Sure.
I think it's only you, so.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be here.
Takes you 20 seconds.
So. I can.
All right, Kim,
Bookmobile. Oh, dear.
bookmobile,
Okay.
Okay. I'm Kim from the library. And I am here to just request direction from the commissioners as to what to do with this electric bookmobile grant we got. So previously, the library had applied for a grant for an electric bookmobile. To replace the current one that we have. And we were granted that, $650,000. And then along with that, Pacific Power approved up to $78,000 to assist with the project going forward. Right now, we've parked our bookmobile for now. We have an outreach van that has been going out to Paulina, to Brothers, all locations here in town, and is doing very well. At this point, I see a lot of issues with bringing on an electric bookmobile. We have a whole list of things. So I'm concerned about the range of the charge. So the one that was selected can go up to 170 miles on a charge. But if we're going out to Paulina and back, that's just 150, it's 115 miles. Now, does that include like these steep inclines? If we're
Cold weather.
cold weather, if we're out sitting in Paulina and we have to run the heater or the AC, does that, decrease the charge? Cause I don't want her getting out
You're
there.
in trouble. You have
You're
to
in
be
trouble.
hot. You have to be hot or cold,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Um,
And what about brothers? How long is brothers? That's
So-
gotta be a pretty good stint too.
yeah, Brothers, it was actually, about 100 miles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a little shorter to go there. But again, you get out there and you don't have enough charge to get home, you're stuck. The insurance costs, I'm wondering about our annual operating costs. I did a very rough estimate, very rough. Cause I really didn't have time to look up all of this stuff. This just kind of came, I did roughly $20,000 a year to operate this electric bookmobile. Then we'd have to have the charging station, which Pacific Power, that would cover the charging station, the install and stuff like that. But how do we prevent the public from accessing that meter? Where do we store this in the winter? Who repairs it if it's broke down? How do we get it there?
Before you move on, we would also have to pay to charge it, right?
Mhm,
They're not,
yes.
Pacific Power is gonna put in the facility
Mhm.
to charge it.
Yeah,
But it's not gonna be a free charging station. We would have
no,
to pay
it
for
would
the
probably be
electricity.
about,
And then you can have all these other citizens come
Yeah.
and join.
yeah, around $1,000 a month to have the power to that.
So there's another
station.
12,000,
So now
so
we're
now
at
you're up at
32.
32,
Mhm.
which, and you're just on a rough basis of 20.
Yeah,
And
very
then
rough.
and then you have your staff time, which is.
Yep.
gonna
Continued
count.
power costs are gonna increase.
Mhm. Yeah,
Do you have any more points? And you're good.
yeah, I mean, what will this bookmobile do that our van isn't doing right now?
Well, I think you answered that right at the beginning, with you said the band's doing everything they need to do, so.
It is.
Why
yeah.
would we wanna invest in something that's gonna cost us more money and
Mhm.
probably not do as good a job? Or we
Right,
don't need it to begin with.
right.
I kind of think it's like the generators. It was a very great thing that we got the grant,
Mhm.
but we just weren't prepared for all the other costs. And I
Yeah.
think that we need to, your outreach is doing well. We're trying to go back to our core services
Mhm.
and whatever. And I think that's, in my opinion, what we need to focus on.
Mhm.
This is just too premature. If it was in 5 years, maybe it'd be wonderful and we'd say, oh my gosh, yes, but it's just, to me, premature.
Yeah.
And we don't have that extra money.
We don't.
And we're thinking 32, it could be 50.
Mhm.
And I think there's also a huge concern that we don't get any of the money back until we're done with the entire project.
Yes,
And so is that money still gonna be there with the way the state is doing things? Are they gonna run out of money in this fund and say, oh, sorry?
That would.
Now you have I don't know if it's just a concern. I'm not saying that would happen, but
Yeah.
if we had the cash in hand,
Mhm.
I think that makes it
Yeah, no,
more
we have-
interesting, but with the 32 to 50,000 a year,
Mhm. Yeah, we'd have to front that money up
yeah,
ahead of
that's
time.
problematic.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just think it's like you say, it's like the generator. It's a wonderful offer and we're very grateful, but it's just too. It's
Yeah.
just, we're not ready at this time to take advantage of it.
Yeah, the other cities that have, these electric bookmobiles, they're in bigger cities.
Sure.
Where their branches are not very far away and they can hop to, one or the other. They're not in these rural areas where you go out to Paulina and you're stuck,
Could we get a generator on the back of it?
A diesel generator.
And we have more. We have more pumps, so they need to be up there.
Can you see it?
What about a windmill on the top? We could then, when we're driving, we could charge it.
Yeah, there you go.
Do we need a formal motion or we given direction as to where we think we are? How do we proceed?
So I think the question is, does the Board of Commissioners want to sign the grant agreement? And what I gather from the discussion today is that there's no issue in, or there's no interest in making a motion to approve the grant agreement.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, we have not seen the DEQ grant agreement. We've just received the grant notice or the award notice. We did get the grant agreement from Pacific Power. They're asking for a relatively quick turnaround. Kim was able to get an extension for that. But because Pacific Power and the DEQ grant are kind of tied together, I think we just need to make a decision on the project as a whole and then notify the grantors about the decision.
And they did say that if we did go with this, our other bookmobile would have to be destroyed.
Well, that isn't very nice.
A hole drilled through the engine or,
A hole drilled through the engine? Oh my. You're lying.
So you want a motion to scrub the project and send notice?
Did you say a motion was necessary?
I don't think a motion is necessary. I think based on the conversation today, Kim can be comfortable going to the counterparties and saying, we really appreciate this. It doesn't sound like our county is ready to move forward at this juncture.
And I want to note that Kim's put a lot of thought into this. This was something that came to her
in October.
Yeah, and after we had transition in the library, she was trying to, she put a lot of thought into how to make it work. It's hard to walk away from that sum of money, but it also is a single purpose, right? And I don't know if that purpose, based on a conversation here today, is consistent with what the county needs right now, or what the library.
Yeah.
Especially when we already have a process that's working.
We have a functioning van and, yeah.
Great, so no motion, we'll just let Kim respond and. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kim.
Very much.
You.
So. I think that's we're gonna continue our meeting, but that's our last, actual. Action item. Would everybody be okay if we took a 5-minute break?
No.
No?
Yes, that's fine.
Well, keep talking, because I gotta go.
I'd like to go steal some coffee from facility, so that would be great. Yeah. Okay.
Jane,
You don't want to wait, Mr. Public?
Oh, I'm so busy. I just gotta.
Okay, well, you had a fairgrounds hat on. I figured you were gonna kind of stay and cheer.
He's got friends. He's got connections. Yeah, I know it back.
Right.
See y'all.
Okay, we'll kick off the first presentation.
Okay. Good morning again, Commissioner. So this morning, we're going to cover the last 3 departments. As you're aware, we've had a series of special meetings over the last couple months to discuss core service descriptions for each of the county's departments. We're in the home stretch in terms of those meetings to kind of put a bow on it. Instead of calling one last special meeting, I thought we'd just wrap this up here this morning at this work session. So Casey's here this morning to discuss the fairgrounds, and I will cover the museum and weeds relatively quickly. I think that first slide, you guys have heard me say that, give my spiel on that repeatedly, so I'm gonna kind of skip over that one this morning, and just give it to Casey to start talking about the core service description for the fairgrounds.
Okay. So this is the mission statement that we operate under. Purposes, that we operate the facility for the community. As all you know, the fairgrounds is all things to all people. We seem to do a lot of different things, but we're a multifaceted community hub. We touch most of the community most of the time. Core functions include hosting the annual fair, which showcases our local agricultural crafts and, Western way of life. It happens every year. We've grown it for the past several years. We did take a downturn at COVID. However, we were the only fair that went during COVID, where we moved it into the city parks. And we were the only fair in Oregon that went that year, so that was good. With partnership with the Extension Office, the fairground serves as a center for agricultural education. We maintain a demonstration garden with Dennis Walls, who's a master gardener. We do that every year. We host things such as the Veterans Health Care, Public Health Outreach, food services, a facility for public safety training and emergency response. In addition, recreational and cultural activities, the fairgrounds are used almost every day for equine type events. The track, the indoor arena, the outdoor arena are open every day. We have people that trailer in and ride every day. We've got folks that train horse thoroughbred racehorses out there every day. In addition to that, we serve as an emergency response center. Last year during the fires, we opened 4 times at the direction of the sheriff after the emergency was called. The last fire we had was during horse races. In Denver Canyon, I think we housed 6 people for, I believe, 3 nights. In addition to that, we housed several animals out back that came out of that fire. Red Cross is the partner that the sheriff's office uses for that. And so we open the buildings and make sure they're secure and everything's working. In addition to that, we are the secondary site as an emergency for the hospital if it gets overwhelmed. They will come into Carey Foster Hall and utilize it as a secondary hospital space. We're a staging area for emergency responders that they'll drop everything there at the fairgrounds and we'll move it around as needed. We utilize as an animal shelter for not only livestock, but we've had the ability to put dogs and cats, and we've even had a couple of snakes. We are the distribution point for relief supplies. When the state comes in, they will come in and utilize our facility as one spot. We have free internet that gets used as a communication center. If you notice, we'll have a lot of folks that will come. You'll see them parked in Carey Foster Hall parking lot or up underneath the archway. They're utilizing the internet wireless connections and getting connected that way. We're a very, very versatile facility, and we mean to aim to serve the public and the county as a whole, and I think we do a good job with what we have.
And like the other day, I was over there and you had bull riding in the little arena. You had a Christian dinner, benefit in Grizzly, and we had the winter formal in Carey Foster. So that is pretty much, other than Caldera, we were pretty booked, I think, of everything we had.
It was pretty busy, and in the midst of that, we were remodeling the bathrooms, so we brought in a bunch of porta potties, which I got well used, I have to say that, and I'll just leave it at that, so. We have partnerships, all the internal departments, Parks and Rec, the Chamber, City of Prineville, the Extension Office, St. Charles, obviously the school district. I serve as the ex-president of the Oregon Fairs Association. I'm now the director at large. And in that role, I keep my finger on kind of what's going on with all the fairgrounds in the state. So, there's a few of us that have been around for a few years and they look to us for direction when things can't get answered, so. So our latest round was funding from the state, so that was good. Historically, the fairgrounds budget is a budget operating, and maintaining the facilities. We don't get a lot of opportunities. However, the past 5 or 6 years, we've been very fortunate to, participate in some grant awards that have been multi-million-dollar type, which has really helped us. We've rebuilt the jockey room with that money. We've just now come into another pot of money, I think, that is gonna come into some new expansion in the rodeo arena. So we're talking with our partners about that. Any questions? I think I keep up with most of you on conversations. I don't think there's any surprises that come up. Things that they don't know about, but.
No, I had one question. Last night at the city council meeting, we were talking about moving the Spurs. We're gonna be using kind of high school construction team.
Yeah.
And obviously the roof over the building, that would be a way too large of a project. But is there opportunity, have you looked at partnering with them in the past?
With the high school construction folks, yes, we have.
Okay,
So,
I just didn't have a good answer last night, so I had you here, I assumed you
yeah,
did.
the only thing that, and I have had conversations with Phil from the Kiwanis Club about that. And what I said to Phil was if they could make or integrate some forklift tunnels into that base that they're talking about, then we can just pick it up like a forklift and kind of move it around where we need.
I'm more talking about other projects around the fairgrounds that
Oh,
need to
yeah.
be done. You know, have we looked at bringing them in, then it would reduce the cost of the actual construction.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've been to the senior center, but they did a really good job replacing the floors in there. They actually do, really good work. And so I don't know if that's something you thought about is.
We've engaged with them. We've also engaged with Dan McNary's group, and he does a welding class.
Yeah.
He's done an awful lot for us. And the NJROTC kids, we use them as muscle labor.
Parking
when we need them. So, and they're good. So.
Yeah, I just didn't have a good answer last night, so.
No question, just want to commend you on the great job you're doing.
Thank you.
Yep, Casey.
Yeah, I think the funding piece that we just all heard about is gonna be a game changer for us as far as budget wise. So I think that it's everything is positive. The lump sum money that we got for horse racing will play a big role.
We've already got her spent, huh? We were over at Casey's office and we were already spouting out all this. We had more money than we'd ever had. We never had a conversation where we had money, huh, Casey? So, yeah, wonderful.
Okay. You need me to stay around or?
Nope.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you very much, Casey.
Thank you.
We don't have slides for these next ones.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, I'm just gonna kind of breeze through the museum and weeds. The stated mission statement for the Bowman Museum is to collect, preserve, and share the history of the county of Oregon through exhibits, research, and educational programs at the museum. Strives to foster an appreciation of the region's heritage and ensure its stories are accessible to future generations. Skipping down to the first service area, that is collections, management, and preservation. Key activities include artifact and archive care, legal compliance with state and federal laws governing the stewardship of historical materials, and security and disaster preparedness. This ensures protection and accessibility to Crook County's historical artifacts, documents, and photographs. Service area number 2, public access and research services. So the museum provides access to archives and collections for researchers, genealogists, and government agencies. Key activities include historical research support, digital access, and technology integration. Service area number 3, education and community engagement. Sean's been doing a great job. The whole team at the museum has been doing a great job building this service area up. Museum develops and maintains engaging displays that highlight the county's history and culture, including hosting speakers, workshops, and historical reenactments to promote lifelong learning. Along those lines, key activities include exhibits and interpretive programs, school and youth programs, public lectures, and events. Service area number 4, operational and administrative support. Museum focuses on establishing sustainable funding through county allocations, grants, and private donations, leading to a safe and welcoming environment for volunteers and staff. Service area number 5, tourism and economic development. Museum provides historical interpretation, tourism information, and customer service to enhance visitor experience to our community. The core service description includes performance metrics. It also includes key partnerships, including the Historical Society, School District, Chamber of Commerce, etc. And that's the museum in a nutshell. I know you guys have a complete description in your packet, along with a description of the mandated services. They're not really, we aren't mandated to have a museum. The museum does, though, as a museum, have some state and federal laws, so that it needs to comply with. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have about the museum. Or if you have any feedback on the way the core service description is written, let me know. The ultimate goal, as you guys know, is to put all of these descriptions together into a final packet and have a work product we can carry forward. So that's a quick overview of the museum. If there's no questions, I will jump into the weeds.
They're gonna put some more dominance on the Ranchers Memorial. And I went over there and they're gonna take the third that's by the gazebo and try to open that up during the fair this year. And then kind of keep moving through the stuff as it says. One of the things in the one storage room, there were supposedly, they said there was possibly county clerk records, old county records. So I told Cheryl and she was gonna check on that just in case. But yeah, that's a new focus is the Ranchers Memorial, and we're gonna try to get more public involvement by bringing people through.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's in a bad location. I wish I could pick it up and move it, but I can't. So we're gonna try to do something to maybe get straw or something and try to coordinate. So that should hopefully bring some excitement.
Yeah, that's cool.
Here comes John.
We're not quite done with our work session, so we're not, you can hang out though.
Sure.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about weeds. I'm sure you're very interested in it.
Sure. For comfortable chairs. There's 5 of them for you.
Yeah, got a few. Pick
The
one.
whole end of the
No
table.
recliners, sorry, John.
Okay, so again, the core service description for the weed control is in your packet. Weed control services involve identifying and assessing weed species, implementing preventative measures, and applying mechanical or chemical control methods safely and effectively. Regular monitoring ensures effectiveness while all activities protect soil, water, and non-target species. Service area number 1 is the noxious weed control program. Key activities include implementing weed control programs for Forest Service, BLM, Bonneville Power, Bureau of Reclamation. And this helps reduce the spread and impact of invasive weeds on public, private, and agricultural lands. Service area number 2 is education and outreach. So key activities, public education through town halls, print material, digital outreach, landowner site visits. This helps increase public knowledge and voluntary compliance across the county. Service area number 3, regulatory enforcement and site inspection. Key activities under this service area include enforcement of noxious weed laws, including aggregate facilities, do development site inspections, and maintaining Oregon Department of Agricultural compliant application and enforcement records. Again, this ensures compliance with state, local weed laws, minimizing legal and economic risks, maintains fair standards across development and agricultural operations in our county. Service area number 4, grants and collaborative project management. Key activities include management and implementation of Title 3 noxious weed projects for the public, and coordinate tri-county weed grants in collaboration with OWEB and Crook River CWMA. And then lastly, service area number 5, program administration and performance management. This includes building a financial partnership with county finance and strategic planning and performance tracking, again, to ensure efficient operation, fiscal accountability. The complete description, includes the performance metrics, key partnerships, and potential budgetary considerations. With that, I'll try to answer any questions you have about weed control.
There's a lot of weeds out there.
There's a lot of weeds. Yeah, they keep growing.
There's a lot, and I will say this, a shout out to Thomas. He is very excited about the subject of weeds, so we have a very good weed master there. Never seen anyone that excited, and he has he has job security, right?
Clearly, you never met Kev.
Clearly.
Yeah, very excited, so that's good. Thank you.
Thomas is a good face of
Yes, he
that
is.
program.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good.
And again, there's a similar kind of mandated services. Again, we're not mandated to have this type of weed control program. But if we do, there are certain laws that we comply with, et cetera. So, again, that kind of wraps up just the overviews of the core service descriptions. Based on any feedback we've received, we'll tweak as necessary. We may, for formatting purposes, some of the core service descriptions may look a little different than what was presented to you. Substance shouldn't change unless we got kind of direct feedback on something. But Brianna is working and helping me put together the final packet, and I'm looking forward to doing a presentation at a regular board meeting, not to walk through each of the core service descriptions in detail, but to highlight the project, the importance, how it's going to be beneficial to the county. And influence decision-making, whether it's budget related, operational. It'll be a great tool for us to use going forward. And again, it's a living document, so as laws change, county priorities change, we'll be updating it on an annual basis. So with that kind of wraps up
Thank you very much, Will, for all your work.
I appreciate all the
I know
departments.
it's kind of probably got boring after a while, but thank you for hanging in there.
Yeah, maybe that first and last slide in the presentations that I had to talk about 10 different times, but no, it's been great. Department heads have been very helpful, and I look forward to having this be a tool for us to use going forward.
Yeah, I really appreciate the process. I think we have a great product here to be helpful.
I agree. Positions to excel, so.
I think it'll be helpful, so.
Okay.
Thank you guys for your attendance at all the meetings and engaging on it. So.
Good job.
Manager's report, well, yeah, I was gonna say public input,
Yeah, there's nobody here, so.
maybe 1, 2, 3.
I have no managers report.
The commissioners report?
March 20th through the 30th, we are going to have feedback signs on Weibel's Corner and on that little rise coming out from Redmond there, and law enforcement will be in force.
Good job.
Definitely.
Good job, Susan.
Well, that doesn't mean they're gonna obey it, but we're trying.
Just kind of an update on the BLM. Getting access for the Juniper Canyon Road. Just continuing to get lots of letter support from different subdivisions in Juniper Canyon. Will and I are going to a meeting on St. Patty's Day with PLA2, and so hopefully we can get them to get us one, and then there's another one on Thursday for High Desert subdivision. And there's not many others I haven't talked to, so I think we're really getting to the end, and, they're working in Washington, DC on the process and moving that forward, and I think once we get kind of all those locked up, we should be, moving right through the process.
John, I hope you got your plumbing fixed today. You can review the minutes of this meeting and it'll kind of give you a highlight of
Oh, okay,
the things that we
Yeah.
discussed.
okay, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, we talked about you.
The minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You only get 1% if that goes, which
I usually don't get any percentage. You know.
I kind of even question the 1% and I also question the 5%, but
Yeah.
just something for you to look into.
And it's new, obviously, for most of us. I think there's one county in Oregon that is, under some negotiations. I want to say it's Tillamook County.
Interesting.
It's all I've heard of, yeah, because I had actually, an assessor had asked our group about it, email wide. And, does anybody know about this? Cause I've got potential discussion. And I was the second one that said, we've got this coming up in a commissioner meeting. I'd like info too, if anybody has it. And everybody was saying, no, not me, not me. And one person that did wasn't responding. They probably were, busy, but, anyhow. So it's new, obviously, it was passed in 24, but still, so we'll walk through it.
Okay.
Okay.
We probably
Appreciate
should
you kind of
adjourn.
keeping an eye on that. Let us know, do a
Yeah.
little sleuthing and.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd really like to hear your thoughts on that.
okay, so should I listen to your meeting from?
I would.
Probably,
Okay,
yeah,
sounds good.
yeah.
When will that be available?
Probably later today.
Sounds good.
Quick turnaround around
We
here.
are very.
Come on, you
quick on our
guys.
turnaround.
Yeah, amazing work.
We have,
Well,
we're
thank you,
very,
Brianna, for doing that. I
Yeah.
know that's something we
we're
added.
very
And
lucky.
Brianna does a really
Well,
good job.
Alex does help get the videos up pretty quick, so Alex deserves the
But the
credit.
biggest thing is the minutes. I
Thanks,
can
Alex.
remember coming on and not having minutes and they were like 4 months behind. This was before I was even a commissioner and you wanted to know the answer and yeah, so that is huge for you. You're
I
wonderful.
remember when they were a year and a half behind.
Oh, I know, and you wanted to know and yeah, so really, so a motion to adjourn. We
Well,
can't tell her how
and
great.
just real quick before we do, I think we should, these are our people. Is anybody online want
Oh,
any
that's right.
public input before we?
I
close the
forgot
meeting?
about the public had left.
Everything.
Okay,
Say motion, adjourn.
Second.
any discussion?
No,
All those in favor?
from Rick, I.
Crawford, aye.
Okay.